overseas looking nice. Room service if I like, I order twice. Hibachi, got the gravy on the rice. Rolling in Mexico like a paradise.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the SCN Steelers Q&A. This is not Jeremy Betts. This is the person that tries to not laugh too hard when I hear the music. This is Dave Schofield, Steel Curtain Network editor, coming at you on a Sunday night. I was going to join Jeremy tonight, then Jeremy wasn't going to be able to make it. So instead, I have another special guest that'll be up here pretty soon. But first, I want to talk about the title of the show tonight. It's the Steelers have reached the crossroads of the 2024 season. This is an important point of the Steelers season. But I specifically use the term crossroads because the crossroads is when two roads meet, which is a lot like two lines that meet. And when two lines meet, they meet at something that's called a vertex. And if you're familiar with back in our time, especially on the website at Behind the Steel Curtain, I used to co-author one Vertex article. And joining me tonight is my co-author with a glorious return to Steel Curtain Network. We have one Jeffrey Benedict. Jeffrey, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Dave. I'm doing great. It's great to be back. It's great to be on the show. Great to see you, hang out, talk Steelers. It's just fun.
It is so great to see you again on camera, hear your voice. Oh, I miss your shows. See, we've already got people pretty happy to see that you're here. Yes, and we've seen you occasionally in the live chat. I have noticed at times that you've been there in various shows. I think it was a post-game show more than anything. Yeah. But really happy to have you back. I mean, it's not like you're back, but just to have you on a Steel Curtain Network show at all, this is fantastic. Just to start, what do you think so far of the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers?
They're doing better than I expected overall. Like I did, if you had told me they would have been 8-2, 10 games in, I would have been like, all right, that's really doing good, right? They were doing really good. Yeah, they're probably about where I thought they were going to be. I thought this was a team that coming into this season was going to make the playoffs again and could have a better chance than previous seasons of actually winning a playoff game. I went short of saying they were going to win a playoff game because there's so many factors to that. But I think they are better set up to push and compete in a playoff setting.
Yeah, and I think I actually have an article that's going to be on SteelCurtainNetwork.com on Monday. I assume Monday, as long as Jeff schedules it to go out then, that it talks about here we are. This next time the Steelers take a snap in a game, it's actually going to be December. When they play next Sunday is December 1st. I can't get over that. We're not even at Thanksgiving, but their next game's on a Sunday. So we're talking December football. And I had said during the bye week, hey, the Steelers got 3 games, then they have their mini bye. If they could find a way to go 2-1 against Washington, Baltimore, and Cleveland, that would be great. Then they went 2-0 against Washington and Baltimore, and you're like, oh my goodness. Well, then you told me a little bit because I was making sure. I'm like, so did you catch the game Thursday? What did you think of the Thursday night game against Cleveland there, Jeffrey?
As I told you beforehand, it was pretty much what I expected. My son was excited to watch the game. We're sitting and watching the game. I'm like, son, let me tell you what to expect in this game. The Steelers are going to like they don't know how to play football. They're going to lose the battle on the line of scrimmage on both sides. Offensive line, defensive line, both aren't going to look like they normally do. And we're going to find a way to lose. Like it's just Thursday night football when you're on the road, especially in the AFC North. My favorite stat going into that game is if you look since 2006, when Thursday night football became a regular event, right? The 4 teams with the best winning percentage at home on Thursday night since 2006, not specifically in order, but are Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Cincinnati.
At home.
AFC North at home. They're the best. There's no team that wins at a higher rate than all 4 of the AFC North teams. And that's Cleveland even when they stink. You put them at home on Thursday night, they're winning the game. You put the Steelers at home, and what they're winning the game. At the same point, all 4 teams are in the bottom 8% of win percentage on the road. The AFC North is by far the worst division on the road on Thursday nights in the NFL. It's an AFC North thing. If we're on the road on Thursdays, we lose. If we're at home on Thursdays, we win. It's ridiculous percentages. And I'm like, until they prove it wrong, until the Steelers do something like, play like the Chiefs do and win a couple in a row on the road on Thursday, I'm going to stay with it. Anytime the Steelers are on the road on Thursday, it's a loss. And if they're at home, it's a win. It's just mark it down when the season starts.
Yeah, and I got suckered into changing my pick to the Steelers for the articles and for the podcast. I'm going to make a confession. I didn't say this in the postgame show because I didn't want people to give me a hard time. But you know what? It's time to fess up. I actually bet the Browns on the money line. I did.
It's a smart move.
I did. Well, because I was trying to counterbalance my parlay, because there's an article that I do with myself, Jeff Hartman, Corey Eckenroth, that Corey sets it up. It's we do a 3-leg parlay. Well, each of them were, and I said this because I said, I'll give you one, but I would not bet Thursday Night Football. I would not bet this, especially the Steelers on Thursday Night Football, especially any kind of parlay. But I gave one anyway just to see how it was. But I'm like, I'm going to kind of counterbalance this because it's just, and honestly, I would have loved to have lost the bet. But that was the wise move, just based on everything, because of Thursday night. Now, I don't want to completely throw him under the bus, but I'm going to give Jeff Hartman a hard time from what he said on his last Let's Ride. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. The reason I'm giving the benefit of the doubt is it was like 1:30 in the morning after the game. He's recording Let's Ride. Jeff goes to bed at like 9:30. So it's really late for him. And it's the emotion of after just having the loss. Hopefully he thinks more clearly now and may rethink this. He was upset with the Steelers' lack of preparation and claimed that it had nothing to do with the game being on Thursday. I'm like, that's like Thanksgiving's coming up. Okay, we'll use a Thanksgiving analogy. That's like saying, oh, your turkey on Thanksgiving is terrible, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I only gave you an hour to cook it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can feel that way, but because to me, especially with the Steelers on the short week on the road, particularly, but when do the Steelers play? When the Steelers have a bye or a mini bye, when they're coming off extra rest, would you consider them to be average, below average, or better than average?
I would say better than average.
I would say better than average.
Especially if you go through the work of going through and looking at the games where they have at least 1 day more of preparation than their opponent.
Yeah.
Under Mike Tomlin or Bill Cowher, phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really good. Now, when they're on short rests, not so much. I would say maybe above average when they're at home, because when both teams are on short rest, but definitely below average on the road. I mean, my trivia on I keep wanting to say Thursday night for the preview. It was Wednesday night. Was the last time that the Steelers won on the road on a Thursday. It was Thanksgiving night against the Colts in 2016. The time before that was Tomlin's first year coaching. That's how they had. I think they were like 2-10 on the road in that time. Something crazy. It might not have been 10. I can't remember how many it was at this point. But it's not bad. So if you're a team that's notoriously better when you have more prep, and not as good when you have less prep, that goes to show you that you are a highly preparation-dominated team.
Yeah.
So short weeks affect you. You can't say that they don't. So some people are in there. All right. So we're going to get to fire off questions. I'm going to start looking through to find some. I know we had some here at the beginning. Here we go. This was before we even came up. This is from Joseph. I'm not even going to try to do that last name. I'm not. But it says, with the season the Steelers are having, do you feel that maybe we are a year away from being a more serious contender for the Super Bowl?
That there's so much. Like, what's the quarterback situation next year?
That's
and I mean, that's where you go to, because outside of that, like who's really on decline? Cam, maybe at some point. As I've said for 3 years now, at some point, Cam
You just
Hayward's
don't
going to
know
stop
when.
being dominant.
Yeah.
At some point, we'll see it when it happens. I don't know. Like, if the quarterback situation is good, you go add another receiver. Keep churning in talent like they've been doing the last couple of years. They're doing a great job roster building, in my opinion, especially depth wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could be. Very well could be, but there's some quarterback position is about the biggest question mark you can have on any team.
Yes. And honestly, the Steelers did the right thing with the quarterback position this year. They have both of these players on very inexpensive contracts. I mean, all three of them. And you're like, well, maybe they should get something more long. No, you couldn't do anything more with Russell Wilson. You kind of wanted to see what you had with both players and everything. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
But until that shored up, to me, this is almost like a now or never scenario. You've got to feel the urgency because you don't have any certainty with quarterback after this year. So when you're going to worry about that? The day after your final game of the season.
Yeah.
So you got to lay it all on the line this year. And you know what? And to me, depending on how that works out, it could well be that the Steelers are a year away and could be even closer next year. But we're not really going to know that until that gets cleared up. So that's a really good question for the offseason, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right now, it's got to make the most of what you have right now because that's what it is. Although this was a question for anyone, I'm going to bring it up. I have the answer to this question. If you want me to answer it, unless you know that have the answer to this, because Mark Cunningham says, and someone may have already answered this in the live chat. I haven't made it far enough. It's the questions for anyone. Can anyone explain why Winston wasn't assessed an intentional grounding penalty when Queen blitzed and the offensive lineman touched the ball? Does illegal touching override an obvious intentional grounding call? Here's a couple things with that. Do you want me to go ahead and get this one, Jeffrey?
Go for it.
Okay. First of all, I said it before. I know in high school, illegal touching was a loss of down because we lost the varsity team I was coaching, where I was a volunteer coach, lost a game on a 2-point conversion attempt with no time on the clock because it was an illegal touching.
What's wrong?
And it was lost to down. Offensive lineman caught the ball for the 2-point conversion. That was the problem. So I don't know that illegal touching overtakes intentional grounding. That would be a bad precedence. But in this case, what it was there was an offensive lineman that had reported as eligible that was close to the pass. Now, he hadn't gone out for a pass or anything, but that means that there was someone in the vicinity. That was the way it was explained to the Browns. Unfortunately, it wasn't explained that well to the Steelers because they didn't even know what down or distance it was. They had no clarity to the situation and ended up having to burn a timeout, which I don't fault them for burning that timeout. I fault the officials for putting them in the situation that they had to. Mm-hmm. So that's the explanation of what it was, that there technically was an eligible receiver close to where that ball was. I also saw some people comment to say if Patrick Queen wouldn't have messed up that throw, someone was sitting there that might have been able to step in front and pick the ball off anyway, but woulda, coulda, shoulda, we'll never know.
That was my thought, is it looked like Patrick Queen hit his arm.
Yeah.
So how would that even be intentional grounding? Like you know what I'm saying? Your pass was interfered with. That's not intentional grounding.
That's the other issue as well.
Yeah, you don't know what that pass was supposed to be to.
Yeah. And that's what makes it a judgment call. How much it really is the definition of a judgment call. How much did the defender affect the pass itself? It's kind of like in baseball when you're checking your swing. Because my dad used to be a baseball umpire. You had to look at batter intent. Did they intend to swing or not?
Yeah.
And this is kind of the same thing. Was he intending to throw the ball away, or was he just not able to complete it where he wanted to complete it? If it's the first one, it should be a penalty. That's why I remember it was a couple years ago. They called an intentional grounding. It was Josh Allen in a Buffalo game. It was a terrible call. He wasn't trying to throw the ball away. The receiver either slipped or he threw the ball and the receiver broke one way instead of the other way. And he wasn't trying to ground it. And that's what the heart of it is. So it really is a judgment call. But that was the explanation for that specific play. Let's get to another one. We got Mark Tobin coming in here. Said, why did the Steelers think that they were going to be able to beat Cleveland with the same plan the Saints beat them with the week before? I didn't get to see any of that Saints game because I was at the stadium for the Ravens game.
I don't watch the Saints play the Browns.
Yeah.
So if I had to guess, that would be the easiest thing to go, is be like, hey guys, we're going to kind of lean towards this style, because Cleveland didn't have time to adjust.
Yeah.
Cleveland had no practice time. In all honesty, I don't think it matters. Like you just it's something there. There's something in the water on Thursday night games. Home teams win, away teams lose, especially inside the AFC North. Like you can nitpick that game all you want, but take the film from any Thursday night game, good, bad, whatever, throw it out the window. It doesn't matter for any other part of the season. Thursday night football is its own thing.
Yeah, and that's why, and I talked about before that all bets are off. It makes me nervous because oftentimes the better teams don't win. That's why I talked about it on my Pittsburgh Standard Time show that I do on Thursday mornings with Greg Benevitt, that it's if the NFL, they should implement another bye week.
Yeah.
And have it not be a full bye. And anytime a team plays on Thursday, they should be off the week before. You can schedule that out. Add an extra week to the season, and don't make teams play 3 different Thursday night games throughout the season. And you can make it happen. But
we're going the opposite direction.
Yeah, they're like, oh, let's just shorten more weeks.
It's like, what is it? No team has ever played the 3 games in 11 days, or 10 days between one game to the 2 games later. In like years and years and years, since like 2012, something like that. No one's ever done that. This year, 10 teams have it.
Unless it happened with like a COVID thing. You know what I'm saying?
It didn't even happen during COVID.
I wasn't even sure if it did there or not.
Yeah, it didn't happen during COVID. Like, and here's how you can do it. That's what the Steelers, all the teams that play on Christmas Day have that.
Yeah,
because it's Sunday through Wednesday. They have 3 games from a Sunday to the next Wednesday. But if you have a Monday night game, and then the next week have a Sunday game, and then have a Thursday game, you do the same schedule.
Yeah.
But they've never done that.
Yeah.
They haven't done that in so long. Like, if they have done it, it was way back. And now they're like, oh, yeah. They did some study that was like, there's the serious injury rates don't increase with shorter rest time. Between 6 and 4 days, it's not a big difference. So, boom, they'll throw a bunch of games like this.
Yeah.
And I think it's dumb. I think it's awful. But like to the question here, man, the Steelers had little time to prepare. The Browns had little time to prepare. They played not NFL football. They played Thursday night football. It's just its own thing.
And what I still can't get over that the Steelers were down 12 points. They went down 12 points in the fourth quarter. And 6 minutes and 1 second later, they had the lead.
Oh, I know. I thought they were going to do it.
I know. I'm like, once they came back, got the lead. And I'm like,
oh my gosh.
But they did it so fast.
And then that drive by Cleveland was the most predictable Thursday night game winning drive. Yeah. Like, it's just the most natural Thursday night thing. You're just like, this is just dumb.
Yeah.
This is like just the dumbest drive. And it made me so mad. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you should know this is what's going to happen. Like, you should expect this. It's freaking Thursday night football and it's stupid. I hate Thursday night football so much.
I hate what I said. I like watching Thursday night football that's not the Steelers. I don't care that other teams are inconvenienced just for my entertainment to help me get from Monday to Sunday.
Do you know
that nice break? But
I don't know. You might know this. You might know this because you have a lot of that information in your head. I know you guys do stuff with like crazy numbers. But you know what the Steelers would have pulled off if they had won that game?
What's that?
It would have been the first time in Steelers history, franchise history, that they beat a division opponent on the road on Thursday.
Really?
They have never done it. Bill Cowher, 0-2. Chuck Noll, 0-2. Someone in 1936 lost a Thursday night game to Cleveland. Like, they've never done it.
Nope.
Steelers have never won an AFC North, AFC Central game on a Thursday on the road, ever.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just even Tomlin. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, as a season ticket holder, when the schedule comes out, I look for Thursday games. I hate home Thursday games because I don't want to go, and sometimes it's not easy to sell the tickets.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, if they're on the road, it's bad for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Especially, and the whole reason they've been doing more division games on Thursday nights is because they figure if it's a more familiar opponent, then the lack of preparation is a smaller factor. And then now we even have our first ever flexed Thursday night game coming up in several weeks.
That's not the reason. They do it to screw over the Steelers. You know it. It's
a
conspiracy.
True. But here's
the Steelers.
Here's what's crazy. There was supposed to be another AFC North Thursday game. It was the Browns and the Bengals, and they flexed it out of it.
Well, the Browns' recent record against Pittsburgh, 3 of those games are Thursday night games that are at Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, Cleveland's doing so great against Steelers at Cleveland Stadium. Steelers can't win. Yet 3 of those were Thursday night games. Like,
they played each other on Thursday night last year, but it was in Pittsburgh, and the Steelers won.
Yeah.
So here we go. You and I could just talk for a long time. Eric Parker.
I will complain about Thursday night football any day you want me to.
I'm not the right person on because I'm the same way about it, about all the numbers of how bad it is. But you know what? If anything, hold on. Sorry, Eric. I'll get to your question in a second. If anything, if the Steelers are going to lose, it's a wake up call to play better. They could have played better. They didn't.
Yeah.
They should have played better. They still should have won.
Yeah.
They just didn't. And you can make the excuse of Thursday. No excuse. No excuses, Steelers. You've got to work extra hard now to get better.
Yep.
I can make the excuse in my mind all I want. But for them, I just want this to motivate them even more. Eric Parker asks, what are your thoughts on Tomlin not playing the field position game and attempting a 58-yard field goal in these conditions? Also, the 4th down attempts. Actually, I had an article at SteelCurdNetwork.com. It's on the top of the page. If you go there right now, what the article says, I almost forget, so I have to pull it up here to double check what my title was. But it was 6 questionable decisions by the Steelers in week 12 and 3 that weren't. So what I did was I looked at some of the questionable decisions, but then 3 of them I said that weren't. One of the ones I said that wasn't a questionable decision was taking their second time out on that 3rd and 7, because I said they were confused, they were screwed. If they would have given it the first down because of that was unacceptable. They gave it the first down anyway, which then you're like, oh, boo-hoo. But yeah. Let's see, another, I'm trying to remember what they all were, but of the 6 that were questionable, one was the 58-yard field goal, which I said was the least questionable because I understand the reasoning, but I also, you got to, if you want to look at results, that also goes both ways. I'll get there in a second. The 4th down attempts, that was a whole different story. I'm going to ask you about that one. But the 58-yard field goal, 1, Boz had been hitting those. Yes, the weather was bad. 2, well, so I guess it's going to be 3 things. Because they sacked Russell Wilson, did you really want that to turn into a play that cost the Steelers 3 points? You're like, you know what? No, we're going to get our points anyway. We're going to take the long field goal. And we're not going to let that negative play take away 3 points. Well, it ended up taking away 3 points and field position. So that's the risk in doing that. But at the same time, the Steelers defense held them to a 3-and-out. So it's not like it ultimately, them gaining that field position would have made all the difference in the world to keep Cleveland from scoring because they didn't score anyway. Jeffrey, what was your thought on the 2 failed 4th down conversions?
Okay, well, I'm going to do with the field goal first.
Okay,
here.
Go ahead. Yeah,
you said they went 3-and-out because they kicked that field goal, and then it was like, okay, now the defense has to step up and bail you out because you put them in a bad spot. They absolutely did. You had that incredibly short punt, and then that freaking penalty.
Yeah,
just killed it. Like that to me is Thursday night football. Is a dumb penalty here. You're playing from behind. You're just there's so much to it. For me, the 58-yard field goal goes along with the 4th down conversions. I think Mike Tomlin knew something had to go right. Mm-hmm. In my head, like to me, it's like something improbable has to go right if we're going to win this game. Like just the nature of Thursday night football going into Cleveland Stadium. They talked about how there were so many fewer Steeler fans in Cleveland than usually is in Cleveland because it's Thursday night. You can't go
Yeah, who
there
wants
and
to
then at
go?
the end of the game drive back and go to work in the morning. Like, no one's doing that on Thursday. Sunday, yeah, sure, I'll go drive to Cleveland and watch the Steelers play. But you can't do that on Thursday. Like, it just, to me, I think Mike Tomlin felt like something here has to happen.
Yes.
Something has to go right. And the problem with the Justin Fields offense system is we were losing the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
You can't do Justin Fields is going to do a design quarterback run when you're already losing the line of scrimmage. But they had those plays in, and they're trying to do it.
And I don't know if they were confused or if it was rushed or whatever with Justin Fields. Bottom line is it got blown up front. It wasn't executed up front well. The reasoning behind it's irrelevant, whether it was, the snap happened before they were ready or they just weren't sure what was happening, but it didn't matter. Bottom line is it got blown up front so bad, it didn't matter. And to me, the second one, I thought it looked like, because it was Russell Wilson handing it off to Jaylen Warren. I didn't like that it was one of those plays that you take the snap, you run it, the running back waits for the ball while the quarterback runs it back to him and then hands it off. I don't like that on 4th and 1. But I thought that the Steelers didn't substitute so that way the Browns couldn't either. I'd have to go back and check the tape to see if there was any substitutions. But that's what it felt like in that moment, that they went quick. They didn't want them to substitute and all that. But I didn't like the play call of the running back getting the ball so far behind the line of scrimmage. But you're right. You need – all you had to do was really hit on one of those. I said that there were 6 different things. 2 of them were the 4th down plays. 1 was the field goal. 2 of them were plays involving Cordero Patterson. I despise that end around that they ran on 1st and goal from the 7. I'm like, you're struggling in the red zone. Why are you trying to get cute?
Yeah.
But they got bailed out on an unnecessary roughness penalty after the play. Then, and the 2-point conversion, I just felt like if you want to put one guy out there to the left with a 101 and just immediately throw a jump ball, you got other guys that I would rather see out there. So I get that. Those are some of the things. But if they execute any one of those things, they probably win the game.
Well, that is one of the major knocks on Arthur Smith that over time people get really, really sick and tired of, is every once in a while you get a big moment in the game and he's like, who's our 3rd string tight end? Yeah, let's throw it to him. Who's our backup running back?
Feature them for a while.
Let's feature these. No one will see it coming.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh my gosh, we can. No, everyone. No one is fooled. You just have to play defense.
Yes.
It's like, it's like it makes me think of Mike Tomlin just standing there being like, they get paid to play too. The guy lined up across from Cordell Patterson is not sitting there going, well, I can take this play off. Like, he's going to play. He doesn't want to get beat by, and he knows it's Cordell Patterson. Arthur Smith, Cordell Patterson, they know.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And I hate to say it, but Cleveland played one of their best games of the season.
Well, of course, it was Thursday night at home. They looked great.
Yeah.
They could have won the Super Bowl in that game. Like, give them the Chiefs in the playoffs Thursday night in Cleveland. I would give Cleveland a good shot at winning the game. It doesn't matter who it is. I think they're 9-1 now at home on Thursdays.
I haven't looked at that one. Yeah,
they're 9-1.
Yep.
Like, holy crap. But if you told me over the last 20 years, what situation are the Cleveland Browns 9-1 in? And I would say none. There's not a single one. But there is. It's home on Thursday night. Doesn't matter who they face. And 3 of those games are the Steelers.
Yeah.
When the Steelers were much better teams than them.
Yeah, and that's the thing that bothers me so much with Thursday night. But the NFL loves it. Is they want to put better teams in the worst situations so you can maybe get more parity with everything.
Well, that's the story of our entire second half of our season. They want to put good teams in bad situations.
Oh yeah, we're going to get to that because we still have to talk about it being the crossroads.
Hey, you want to know what team? This isn't trying to. You want to know what team was actually phenomenal on the road on Thursday nights? The Colts with Peyton Manning.
Really?
Peyton Manning absolutely destroyed on Thursday nights.
Probably because he just said, hey, worry about other stuff. I got the offense when we're out there.
You were going to run these plays. Yeah. We're going to execute. Yeah. And he could get rid of the ball fast enough that the offensive line didn't have to be good.
Yeah.
And the other team was your defensive backs are beat up, your linebackers. You attack linebackers all day. on a Thursday night. If you can attack linebackers, you're gonna have great success.
Yeah, you're right, and figuring out, just kind of figuring out where you can attack them. That's what it really all comes down to. Hey, we got to take a quick break here. So before we get back to it, so if you're with us here live, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us on the audio, stick around. We'll be right back after these messages. All right, Steelers fans, we are back. This is Dave Schofield filling in for Jeremy Betts. This is Jeffrey Benedict making a glorious guest appearance on the Q&A. So great for him to be here and giving us his insights. Here we go. Captain Underpants wants to know.
I was just looking at that one.
My only question is, can we put a plan into effect that gets us a few more wins this season? There you go, Jeffrey.
No,
we
can't. Okay. If you want, I mean, this really, if we're talking about the number of wins the rest of the season, let me tell you, it's not going to be high. If they get 4 wins in the next, they have 6 games left?
They have 6 games left.
If they win 4 games, I will be stunned. I will be stunned if this team wins 4 games. And I think this team can win a playoff game. But I don't think they can go 500 going out the rest of the season. And I don't think planning and things has much to do with it. Because I love statistics. I love these things. We have coming up a game in Philly. When was the last time we won in Philly?
1962, I do believe it is.
Pre-Chuck Noll.
Yeah.
Like Dan Rooney.
No, they don't happen there all the time.
We have never won in Philadelphia since. We haven't won a game in Philadelphia since Dan Rooney took over team operations. Yeah. So that's not going to happen. That's a loss. I don't care how good the Steelers are. I don't care where. It's a loss. We're losing in Philadelphia. We have another on the road short week AFC North game. That's a loss.
One day short is a little bit.
That's a loss.
Yeah.
We're going to lose that.
Yeah.
Like it's just going to do it. We have the Chiefs on Christmas Day. National game. It's at Pittsburgh. I don't think that matters. Like, how many bad calls are the Steelers going to get that game, Dave? What's the over/under on really bad calls? 4? Like what? Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
We can sit here and we can try and be, and I normally try to be the guy who's like, no, come on, we have to outplay. You have to outplay the refs, but we're gonna have to beat the Chiefs and the refs on Christmas Day to get a win. I think those 3 straight games are all losses.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's much we can do to change that. I don't think there's a plan the Steelers can put in place that is going to overcome history, that's going to overcome like the way the universe functions. It's just the way things are. We go to Philadelphia, we lose. Short week, Ravens. And it's a short week after Ravens. What's our win rate on that? It's terrible.
Oh, that's the Steelers going into the season. That's what I had calculated as like the worst win percentage that the Steelers have is when they have to play on a short week after playing the Ravens.
And we get Kansas City on Christmas Day, nationally televised, big deal game. Yeah, the Steelers aren't winning that. The NFL is not going to be okay with the Steelers winning that game.
But also think of this. Let's say the Steelers can find a way to win 1 out of those 3. Just
Crazy.
1.
Crazy.
I mean, honestly, the Chiefs, they lost to the Raiders on Christmas Day last year. Steelers are undefeated on Christmas Day.
Yeah. Oh, you want to know? You know what?
You know
what the Steelers? You know what the Reelers? You know what the record is? Since the merger, because if you go back to the 1930s, for some reason they played on Wednesday all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many Wednesday games there have been?
Well, the Steelers beat the Ravens in 2020.
Yes.
On
how many other ones there's
game
been?
Of their 11-game win streak before it all.
How many other Wednesday night games have there been?
Or just Wednesday game? Because this isn't even a night game; it's a
Wednesday.
Game.
How many games have been played on a Wednesday since the merger? Because before the merger, it was all the time.
There was one. It was a Wednesday night game to open the season because they couldn't do the Thursday night game.
Yeah. Do you remember what year?
I can't remember who it was from. Was that Bears Packers or something like that?
No, that was Giants Cowboys.
Giants Cowboys. Okay. Yeah.
2 games.
Yeah.
So I looked up all this stuff on
what's
the Wednesday night record? There isn't one. Steelers are undefeated since the 1930s. They are undefeated on Wednesdays, 1-0 against the Ravens in COVID.
So what'll be really interesting is this next game against Cincinnati, honestly, because
Yes.
the Steelers are on a mini bye, but the Bengals are coming off a bye. So do they really have that much of an advantage of having the bye with the Steelers having the mini bye? I don't know that they do.
Well, their current coach is 3-2 coming off a bye week, but they've won the last 3 years.
Gotcha.
Last 3 years, Bengals have won coming off a bye week. Steelers, Mike Tomlin coming off Thursday to the next Sunday. Always good.
Yes. So
always
that'll
a
be
big win percentage.
That'll be interesting.
Especially if the other team doesn't have as much time.
Yeah.
But the Bengals actually have more time than the Steelers. So,
but then the next week when the Steelers play the Browns at home, the Browns have one less day because they didn't flex their game out on December 2nd for Monday Night Football.
They're getting stomped.
So,
come back and stomp
you have
the
that.
Browns.
Then when you're looking at Cincinnati the last week of the season, the Steelers will be coming off, a mini bye +1 going from Wednesday, and that's assuming it's on Sunday. So even if it's on Saturday, a day early, which would be a day earlier for the Bengals, it's still going to be a mini bye for the Steelers there as well. Yep. So you can say that 3 of them are playing all pretty good and 3 of them aren't. So we'll just have to see how it goes. To me, this is all about the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is what I'm talking about with the article tomorrow. When people ask me, who do you think is going to win? Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Like right now, it's really easy to say, oh, well, your NFC team for the Super Bowl is the Lions. That would be an easy choice right now.
If they keep playing like they are and they stay healthy, I mean,
but
Lions.
To me, it all comes down to your December.
Yeah.
Championship teams are ones that get hot in December.
Yeah.
So if the Steelers, they have a really tough schedule, but if they step up to the plate and start playing their best football because of that tough schedule, that could really be a good thing. That really could be a good thing. But you've got to get there. Well, okay, we spent a long time on this one.
Well, the last thing I want to say about the Christmas Day fiasco, right? I said at the beginning of the season that could very well be a stretch where you lose 1 or 2 key players from some serious playoff contenders. And right now, you look at the schedule, the 4 teams involved in those games, Steelers, Ravens, Texans, and Chiefs, you have 3 division leaders and the Ravens who are 1 game back from the Steelers for their division. You have 4 playoff teams that are 4, like other than the Bills are the only other real playoff threat in the AFC that's not in this.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's this, they're just straight out we're gonna, before the playoffs start, we're gonna knock a couple of you down. We're gonna give a real chance that a couple of you just aren't going to be in good shape heading into the final week of the season.
Yeah.
That's what annoys me with it.
But you also have to look at it. When you look at the teams that are currently and let's just say going into this week, particularly, because there's still some games to be played and everything. All the teams in the AFC, if you had a winning record, you're in the top 7 for the playoffs.
Yeah. So
everyone who's not in the playoffs have losing records. So now, do I think one of those teams could get a hot streak and make the playoffs? Sure. It could be Cincinnati. I mean, I was going to say it could be someone like the Colts, but they lost today.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, other than Cincinnati, I mean, my goodness, they have 4 wins. The Colts have 5 wins, but they lost. Other than that, no one else is even close. It seems like, Miami now has 5 wins because they won today as well. It's those 3 teams are the only ones that really have any kind of chance to even start to get in the picture. So, all right, let's bring this back a little bit to the Steelers going forward. Dennis Pavlak wants to know, what do you think we will do defensively to stop the Bengals passing offense?
I mean, you hit Joe Burrow. At this point in his career, as banged up as he's been, Joe Burrow has now become one of those, you get the old veteran quarterbacks and you hit him a few times early in the game and he's not going to be as good. Joe Burrow's in that category to me. You start getting to Joe Burrow, you start hitting him, roughing him up, you're going to win the game. It's just, it causes problems for their offense that they can't recover from.
And the concern is the Steelers pass rush has not been getting home this year.
Well, when was Dick LeBeau? When was Keith Butler's last season?
Yeah, Jeff quotes you all the time. It's like Jeffrey Benedict used to say that it was Keith Butler. He could really down
Keith Butler, 2016.
Yeah.
On Steelers at the top.
Yeah.
Minute he leaves, back down.
Well, that comes right into the next question by Mark Tobin. Why don't we move TJ Watt around? Why do we keep allowing him to be double teamed? I noticed one play where they moved him into the A gap on a fourth.
And then people were like, what the heck is TJ Watt doing in the A gap?
Yeah.
And like they moved him around.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to cover this one
because
we're talking about moving TJ Watt around to get him better chances to get sacks. You don't have to. Keith Butler, seriously, the man never moved TJ Watt around, and yet TJ Watt was consistently towards the bottom of guys that got double teamed because he did not let TJ Watt get double teamed. It's all in how you scheme the rush. If they put guys out there if they would put guys out there to block TJ Watt, they'd put a linebacker out there and be like, okay, if that tight end picks up TJ, guess who's shooting inside TJ in that gap? Like TJ takes the tackle and the tight end, boom, there's a lineman in between. Now you either have a linebacker blitzing in the middle there. You either have TJ Watt one-on-one with a tight end or a linebacker running free. Either way, we just won that. Right?
Yeah.
That's a simple way to deal with that. There are ways you can scheme how the defensive line rushes. There's ways you can scheme where TJ Watt lines up and how. Like you could put TJ Watt a little farther out, line up that defensive end over the tackle and just be like, take the tackle. Whatever happens, just rush the tackle's shoulder. They either and you have it. You mess it up and you don't let them. There were so many times with even Keith Butler, you would see a tight end chip TJ Watt and then a running back come and get him.
Yeah.
Because
I call it having to run the gauntlet.
I'm not saying Dick LeBeau. Keith Butler. I keep trying to call him Dick LeBeau. Keith Butler would be like the way he schemed it up, right?
Yeah.
We're used to seeing TJ Watt get the benefit of that scheme and have those phenomenal seasons. But that's because he had, in my opinion, the greatest pass rush coordinator the NFL's ever seen in Keith Butler. You just don't see teams do what Keith Butler's pass rush teams did. And it was 2016 they did it too. It was before TJ Watt. When TJ Watt got hurt, they still did it. They still did it. They still got to the quarterback at incredible numbers. And now that they have TJ Watt, they have Alex Highsmith, they have Nate Herbig, they still have Cam Hayward. They have guys that can get to the quarterback. They don't get sacks like they used to. So for me, it's not about moving them around. It's about what's your priority on defense. Yeah. Keith Butler, you remember before Terrell Austin came, it was basically like, we're going to get to the quarterback. Hope you defensive back guys are okay. Like, do your best, and let's just hope we get to the quarterback because the scheme behind him was terrible.
Yeah.
Terrell Austin came, and Minka came. We had a couple seasons of, like, phenomenal combination of pass rush and pass defense, and then Butler left. And since then, now it's a very different approach to how we get pressure. It's different subtleties in the pass rush scheme. There are ways to focus on, we're going to make you give us TJ Watt one-on-one. I would put it like the difference between Randy Fichtner and Todd Haley with AB. If you go back to when Antonio Brown had Todd Haley would make sure Antonio Brown had opportunities, right? He would scheme entire plays around, no matter what your defense is, we're getting Antonio Brown a chance to catch the ball. Yeah. Randy Fichtner came in and was like, if you're going to triple team AB, okay, there's other players on the field. We can throw to Juju Smith-Schuster. There was a reason we had that meltdown season with AB because he's getting double teamed and Juju is getting all the passes, right? He's like, we can take advantage of that. Some coaches are going to say, okay, if they're going to focus TJ Watt, we hurt him other places. And if they're going to back off on focusing TJ Watt, TJ's going to kill him, which he does.
Yeah.
When they back off on focusing him, TJ just wrecks the game because that's what he's going to do. It's a different approach. And if you want individual success, you obviously want, a Todd Haley coaching an AB. If you have a diva that's a bit of a head case, that if he doesn't get, 15 sacks this season, he's going to have a meltdown and leave the team. You need to scheme it so he gets those pass rushes. But that's not TJ Watt.
No,
so we don't. We don't have to.
Yeah. All right. That was quite Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No. I just like good. I don't feel like I have anything that I could add to that conversation to make it any different. So I'm going to go to the next question because I actually had to, while you were talking, like, you know what? I got to look this up because Brian Brown wants to know who's the Bengals running back now.
That is a good question.
I mean, because it was like Zach Moss got hurt, right? Chase Brown has played all 11 games for him. But is he healthy? I mean, he's their leading rusher.
I love the discussions. Like, this guy's been on the team.
You ready? Here you go. I got the numbers for the Bengals this season. Chase Brown has 607 rushing yards on 140 attempts, played 11 games, started 5. Zach Moss has 242 rushing yards on 74 attempts, played in 8 games, started 6. Joe Burrow has 151 rushing yards on 31 attempts. Jamar Chase has 11 rushing yards on 1 attempt, and Tanner Hudson has 1 rushing yard on 1 attempt. There are 2 other people, both quarterbacks, Jake Browning, Drew Sample, that have negative rushing yards on the season. That's their rushing. So
I have 2 running backs who've carried the ball.
What's that?
Only 2. They only have 2 running backs that have carried the ball.
Yeah. And is Zach Moss, I don't know if he's still hurt or not. I know he was hurt. I don't know how bad he was hurt. Honestly, because the Bengals were the third of the AFC North teams that the Steelers had to face. I've been paying the least amount of attention to them, honestly, because the Steelers had to face both the Ravens and Browns first.
Last things I'm seeing is they don't expect Zach Moss to be back in the regular season, so I doubt he's back. I thought
he might have been done, but I couldn't remember, so I didn't want to say it. Yeah. Here's one. Tyler Cromie says, does Jeffrey know why the offense still doesn't consistently use the middle? Is it wide receiver or was it wide receivers just not getting open?
Okay, this is a consistent Russell Wilson thing.
Okay.
If you're going to get Russell Wilson passes in the middle, you need to scheme your blocking to create a window. If you've ever seen how they used to do it for Drew Brees over the middle, they would scheme their blocks so that they would like let certain guys penetrate a bit and then like get them to the side a bit and do something. So you have a gap where he's not 5'10" trying to look over 6'8" to see.
Or you see a huge Darnell Washington who's in the middle of the field.
Yeah. Like they used to do that. Like that's like you want to get the real brilliance of that New Orleans offense with their coach and Drew Brees is how they would open windows so he could actually see receivers, right? Because the dude's short.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson is short. And you're not going to see throws to the middle of the field, especially when it's kind of chaotic in the pocket and he doesn't have a clean pocket where he can navigate, move, like take a little step and create windows for himself. If they're getting in on him, he can't see over it. So when he's under pressure, you do not get a lot of passes to the middle because he can't see over guys always consistently. You're just not going to get, and especially if you're trying to do a little routes to Calvin Austin III from Russell Wilson, like that front line, they're not small. Like we don't have a short offensive line either. Like he's not going to be able to see them consistently.
But that to me, that's also another reason why you see the Steelers doing it. And sometimes you're like, oh, it's not really fooling anyone. Sometimes you don't have to fool them. That's part of the reason why they're in the bootleg.
Yeah.
You get him outside the pocket some, and guess what he can. Now, are you basically eliminating the back third of the field when you're rolling out? Yes, you are. But you're actually opening up his vision to use the middle of the field if it's available.
Yeah.
Am I wrong there?
No, you're not. No. Like, I mean, there's a reason DK Metcalf did so well with Russell Wilson. This dude's freaking tall and he had huge long arms. He puts his hand up, Russell Wilson could see it. Like, that's a real thing. And that's an underrated thing. And people are like, no, like, and it's one of those things people take it too far and be like, well, short quarterbacks are something to avoid. No, you just have to adapt your game plan when you have a quarterback who's going to have a harder time seeing over your offensive line. And again, if you're winning those battles, he can move. If he has time and is consistently winning and the pocket's pretty secure, he can move a little bit and get gaps and see through those gaps and create vision for himself. But in games where they're just holding on and they're barely surviving, the offensive line is just, you can't do that as much, and you're not going to see over the middle. And so you're not going to be looking. Like, if you know you have 2 seconds, you got to get that ball. He's not going to even be trying to look over the middle because he doesn't know if he's going to find anybody or not.
That's that. Yeah. I'm not going to say anything contrary to that. I'm going to bring up a statement because I'm going to ask a question from it. Mark, something I won't be able to pronounce correctly, says getting Highsmith back this game will open the sacks for Watt because they will have to worry about Highsmith too. Do you think the return of Alex Highsmith is going to be significant for the Steelers defense?
I think it will be significant. I don't think it's going to be like as good for TJ Watt as you might think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, not the way they rush now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it used to be where, like, if with Bud Dupree amplified TJ's sacks because of how Keith Butler used him to basically be like, quarterback can't leave the pocket. And if the quarterback tries to leave the pocket, Bud Dupree is going to take their head off. Like, so you trap them in there with TJ Watt coming. They don't do that now. They don't do that the same way. Highsmith does help TJ Watt in the fact that he is a stronger. It's not like Herbig. You're not going to ask, Herbig, he's a smaller dude. You're not going to ask him to manhandle an offensive lineman and two gap. You can do that a little more with Alex Highsmith. So you can do more contained rushes. But I think the big difference is going to be it's just going to be get him away from Thursday night. That's a big one. He had an awful game Thursday. And it's just not this season.
Yeah. TJ
is not getting the opportunities this season, no matter who's over there. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to see Highsmith come in and for TJ to just rejuvenate. And he has a good sacks and pressures and everything rest of the season. He's still been impacting the games a lot other than Thursday night. But he actually had one of the higher PFF scores on the defense from Thursday. I know. TJ Watt did. I that one surprised me. Because he didn't get sacks. Yeah. It's a problem, Dave. When you start getting sacks, your pass rush win rate somehow goes down. I don't know. Yeah. But that's apparently what happens. Well, I mean, we are talking PFF. But anyway, I mean, I'm the one who reports the scores. Well, I don't report them the same way. I grade their scores, which is much more fun. Needless to say, they haven't. I think their highest for this season so far for me has been a B-. I have two things I do want to say about that last statement. One, we don't know if Alex Highsmith will be back this week. We just know that it was going to be at least through the mini bye. We'll have to see if he makes it back this week. Hopefully he does. It might be another week away. But I'll give you some numbers, Jeffrey. Steelers are 7-0 in games that Alex Highsmith has appeared, and they are 1-3 when he hasn't played. I love that.
And their only win was the one against the Ravens. That's their only win without Alex Highsmith this year. Now, really? you could talk if that's cause and effect until you're blue in the face. I'm not saying I hadn't put that together. I just thought I'd put that out there. I mean, that's what I looked up going into the Ravens game that they won 7 games. That Highsmith had been in all 7 wins, but not in the 2 losses. So then it's just been adding that to the 2 cents.
Wow,
you're waiting to check me, aren't you?
I'm looking it up. I'm just like, no, I just want to see.
I looked you up, Jeffrey. Since 2008, you're right. Cleveland at home on Thursday is 9-1.
Yeah.
But they've won 9 in a row. Their only loss was in 2008 against Denver.
Yeah. Oh, Denver's one of the weird teams that's really good on the road on Thursday nights too. It's them in Indianapolis and like one other team that doesn't make sense.
Now
weirdly good on the road.
In the 80s on Thursday nights, they were 1-1 both against Cincinnati, a win and a loss at home against Cincinnati. But like I said, that was in the 80s. And then they also won one back in 1949 on a Thursday. But
Paul Brown.
But but that loss to Denver was Jay Cutler beating Brady Quinn.
Think about that. Look at the other years, though.
What's that?
Look at the other years. Like, if they had a Thursday night home game the year they went 0-16, they would have been 1-15 that year.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't matter.
They didn't. Not only that, they were so bad. There was always a couple teams every year, even when they tried to give everybody a Thursday night game. Like Cleveland and Detroit didn't get one.
Yeah.
Because they were terrible.
Yeah.
So
Cleveland at home on Thursday. Just okay. And if you have
from
those
2013 to 2018, they did not have a Thursday night game.
Look at the ones that are against Pittsburgh.
Against Pittsburgh,
those are.
What all four of them?
Yeah.
Let's see. What about them? What do you want to know?
What year are they?
2009, 2019, 2022, 2024.
Yeah. 2019, 2022, 2020. Like, yeah, they've been great at home against us recently.
All on Thursdays.
They're Thursday night games.
Yep. All right.
They're 9-0.
Enough about the Thursday nights. Here, Mark the Derogatis. I tried it this time. Maybe I got the right last name. Sorry, Mark, if I didn't. He said, "Can someone tell me why we aren't throwing to Mike Williams?"
I'm going to reach out with this one. My theory on this one is just look at the offensive line. Look at the pocket that Russell Wilson's had the last 2 weeks. The week before that, he threw one ball to him. It was his first game there. Right? Am I right here, Dave? It's been 3 weeks, right? It's been 3 games Mike Williams been on the team. The first game he got that one throw, his first week there, that made sense. Yep. But since then, it's been rough, messy games. Russell Wilson hasn't had a great pocket. Like, you're not – if you have a receiver you're getting used to and you're in an already uncomfortable situation in the game, you're probably not looking for that guy because you don't know him as well. That's my theory on that. It could be wrong or right, but that's what would make sense to me. I looked up his snaps because I'm like, he hasn't gotten targeted. He's been playing. Yeah. He's been on the field. He's just not getting targeted. And that is the only thing that really makes sense to me is that Russell's not used to him and it wasn't comfortable situations.
To me, you also saw some complaints from Aaron Rodgers, who's just a different person and not afraid to complain about people. So take it for what it's worth. But was he not grasping what he was supposed to do? There are guys that have a larger learning curve. Is Mike Williams one of those guys? And that's why what they threw to him in the first game, which the argument would he have even been the guy in there if Calvin Austin hadn't have been dinged up? So he might have had no targets yet. But maybe they're trying to get him fully acclimated. You have to have trust between your receiver and your quarterback. He's got one target in 3 games. Maybe he can develop some of that trust. Maybe you can get the right situation to say, hey, you do this, we're going to throw it up. You line up out there, we get one-on-one with you. You do this, we're going to throw it to you. And just leave it in that situation. Like, honestly, Mike Williams should have been the one instead of Cordero Patterson over there by himself. Say, all right, on that 2-point conversion, Mike Williams, we're going to put you over there. We are going to just throw you a jump ball 5 yards into the end zone on the sideline. Catch it. That's all you just go over, jump up. If you're one-on-one, go for that. The jump ball's coming.
Yeah.
I'd have been fine with that because to me, that's something he could do.
Well, he had one more snap than Van Jefferson.
Yeah.
Van Jefferson had 2 targets. Yeah. He had none. So either they're running him in packages that are more run blocking or like they're going to roll out away from him and stuff. I'd have to really that'd have to be like a deep dive film thing to do that. Yeah. But other than that, I would say, yeah, he's definitely not the number 2 receiver.
Nope.
And as far as the quarterback throwing the ball is concerned, he's not number 3.
Yeah.
Even if he
can grow into it still between now and the end of the season.
Yeah.
But we'll see. My goodness. I mean, because once they traded for Mike Williams, we haven't even heard. I have not really heard anybody mention the name Roman Wilson. I think everyone's now said, hey, they traded for Williams. Roman Wilson's just a redshirt season.
Yeah.
That's the way I think fans are thinking of it right now anyway.
Hopefully he's a redshirt season and not a never season.
Yeah. Brian Brown wants to know, did you guys think the receivers could have tried harder? They never get open. Why can't the receivers get separation? I haven't watched like the all 22. My goodness, I still think the second half of that game where they were trying to project all the lines onto the field made some Steelers disappear in their white uniforms. That was interesting. But word was there was receivers open on Thursday night.
Yeah, and that's weird because one of the cool things early in the season is, the backhanded offense, you never saw receivers break open. You never saw them actually like break open. Suddenly you saw it. With Arthur Smith this year, you saw it earlier in the season. We are later in the season. Teams adapt to your offense. Teams get your stuff on film. We don't have great route runners. George Pickens is not a separation guy. In the same way that like Juju Smith-Schuster, you weren't, even before his injury in 2019, you weren't seeing him wide open, right? He just wasn't a guy that was like that. You were throwing to him anyways. He had good positioning. You threw it to him anyways. These are not guys that get wide open. George Pickens does not get separation. Calvin Austin, for some reason, like weirdly, doesn't get a ton of separation unless somebody messes up. And we've seen him. In all honesty, we've seen him get some balls. Did he have a ball this week he had to drastically slow down for?
Yeah, there was a long play that would have probably been a touchdown if he didn't have to slow down for it.
Yeah, but Russell Wilson can't throw like 2009, 2010 Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah,
like he doesn't have that laser beam downfield. He threw.
Yeah, because honestly, with Austin, look at that. Like, what game was that Austin caught the touchdown? Going down the sideline. Was that Washington maybe? Or was that the week before the bye? I can't remember. But he had one of those, and I'm like, notice that was not a moon ball.
Yeah.
The moon ball was not a Calvin Austin thing because of him and he's not a moon ball guy from what it seems like what it would be best for.
Well, yeah, because if you're throwing it that high,
yeah.
Like Calvin Austin is wicked fast. You want to get that ball. Like you'd have to throw it so far downfield and just let him run under it. He's one of those guys like a Tyreek Hill. Like you can't moonball a Tyreek Hill either because he's outrunning the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you got Pickens and Williams for. So, all right, we're running over a little bit. We're going to have to get going. I'm going to bring up one last question to kind of lead, to kind of lead up the follow to the next question. Wes H says, am I the only one that does not want us to re-sign Russell Wilson? Basically, I'm going to ask you the question this way. Should the Steelers be looking for Russell Wilson beyond this season, or do you think these last 6 games and the postseason is what's really going to determine that more than anything?
This is a rough one. I mean,
I say give me more data. Give me more data. Give me the last 6 games.
Like I think really the rest of the season will determine whether they are pushed to do that. Is he a guy you think has 3 years left in him?
I mean, he says he wants to play like 7 more.
I know, but like, okay, let me put it this way, Dave. If we pay him a medium, and by medium, I mean ridiculously huge, right? A medium starting quarterback salary, it's still going to be a ton of money, but not 40. We're not paying him up there, like not the 35, 40 million. If we get to like 28 million, 30 million for like 3-4 years, are we Super Bowl contenders?
To me, I'm still going to say
that breath, that told me everything right there. Like Dave, like really.
Well, because Russell Wilson came out and really flashed his first 2 games. And honestly, some people were down on this game. He didn't play bad in this game. Now, was there a time where he had a Pat Freiermuth that was more wide open than a Darnell Washington that one play? Sure. Okay, but that was right as he was getting ready to throw that they were reading Wilson. They knew he was going to Washington, and that's why they came up and had Freiermuth looking so wide open. Could he have looked at Washington and then hit Freiermuth? Absolutely. But I'm not going to nitpick that. I want to see over these next 6 games. Now that there is more tape out there on what the Steelers are doing with Russell Wilson, is he going to thrive or is he going to struggle?
Yeah.
Because when you come in and it's something new, that's easy to catch. I mean, my goodness, the Steelers saw that last year against Cleveland with whatever it is, DTR or whatever his name was. You know, you bring in something new and it works well. How many times does a team win their first game whenever they make a head coaching change in the middle of the season to then only fall flat right after that? You can get something new that can help for a little bit. I want to know if that's the case with Russell Wilson. Is it, let's see what he's doing with Pittsburgh and with these receivers and everything, or has the rest of the league figured out? That's why that's why it's all about December. It's all about December. Are the Pittsburgh Steelers going to have an upward trajectory, or have they already peaked and we've seen the best Steelers that we've seen this season? I think it's the first one. I believe it's the first one because I am a Steelers fan. So I will continue to live my life that way. Yeah. But I can't say that the other option isn't a possibility.
Well, here's my big thing on Russell Wilson. We all know Ben Roethlisberger took a lot of sacks, and then they completely changed his game to not take as many sacks, to take very few sacks, one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL from one of the most, right? And it lengthened his career.
Mm-hmm.
How old was he when he stopped playing?
Ben Roethlisberger, 39, right?
39.
Yeah.
How old is Russell Wilson? 36.
36. Yeah.
36. This is his age 36 season. His last 3 seasons, his sack percentage is over 9%.
Mm-hmm.
He is 5'11". He's 200 pounds.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he can't continue to play it this way, but he does. He's continuing to play this way. And if you look at the one thing Denver actually did when he was there, is they tried to get it. Well, Seattle tried to do it. They tried to get his sack rate down. It didn't help him. It hurt his numbers. He played worse. He didn't turn into a Ben Roethlisberger who suddenly became a pocket passer. All of a sudden, it got very exposed that Russell Wilson couldn't throw over the middle. If you try and make him a safer passer, a pocket passer, it doesn't help him. He's got to play his style, and that means taking hits. And he's 36. He's not big. I don't think he's a good long-term investment. Simply for that matter, like, it's the same problem Deshaun Watson had. He came back from being hurt on the field, and he's trying to play a style where he keeps getting hit, and he can't take the hits anymore. You see Deshaun Watson, even when he's playing good, he starts getting hit. His play drops. That's why he's so bad against the Steelers, is because they hit him. They know all we got to do is hit this guy, and he's not going to do well. So for me, Russell Wilson has limitations, and he can adapt his game to what he needs to do to continue playing at a high level at his age. That's my concern with him, is that would be the true case. My problem with Justin Fields is, for Fields to be his future, do you see him put touch on the ball very often?
To me,
he's not Mitch Trubisky level, right? Where it's either a laser or I don't know what I'm doing. But he's like, you need a quarterback who understands throwing the ball more than just chucking it at people.
See, to me, what Russell Wilson brought when he came into the starting lineup was trust. The Steelers had trust in him, and they were willing to do more with the offense. It wasn't just don't kill us. It wasn't don't turn the ball over, don't rely on the defense. It was the first time that we actually saw the Steelers offense opening up some. In order for Justin Fields to be the guy, they would have to trust him. They would have to say, we have to trust him and let him do his thing, or else it's not worth having him back either. Now, with Russell Wilson, to me, I still think this question right now is too premature. First of all, my goodness, we should be enjoying the 2024 season. 1.
We should.
2, if you're assuming that he's starting all the rest of the games, because if he doesn't, because he gets hurt, then that adds in another factor in. He's not even halfway there, people. He's not halfway there yet. What is he, 5 games in, 6 games left?
Yeah.
I also want to see how he responds to his first loss with the Steelers.
Yeah.
What's it going to look like after that? I think there is so much more data that we're going to see that it could make things so much more clearer in either direction, or it could just also make it a lot more cloudy. It could be good, but not great. And how do you feel about it going forward? So that's why I say it's not. That's why they're not signing him right now. That's why them doing this right now doesn't matter, because we're going to get 6 more games. And if he doesn't last 6 games, then that's going to factor into it. And if he does last all 6 games, how he plays in those games is really what's going to determine it more than anything.
If I can follow this up, because Russell Wilson, obviously signing Russell Wilson is tied to what do we do with Justin Fields? Like those two are just joined at the hip, right? And as you were saying, you felt like they trusted Russell Wilson more than Justin Fields, right? The last time we saw the Steelers offense open up like we did with Russell Wilson was last season at the end with Mason Rudolph.
And honestly,
the Steelers didn't exactly.
I don't think they wanted him to
believe in Mason Rudolph, right?
Because I kept saying, "Hey, this could be your last chance. Go for it. Go for it. Don't let them hold you back. Don't second guess anything. Go out there and sling it, because you'd rather go down saying this was my last chance, and at least I went for it." And you know what? It wasn't his last chance, because he went for it and he did fine.
I don't think that is as much a Tomlin thing, because if you even go to Mitch Trubisky, when he played for the Steelers, led the league in pass attempts 20 yards down the field or farther. Percentage of pass attempts that were way downfield. Mitch Trubisky led the NFL in those attempts. So they were fine with letting him throw downfield. He just never completed them.
Yeah.
They were terrible passes. Like, it's not that he didn't try it. They just weren't successful. Yeah. I don't think it's as much a thing that is pushed on the quarterbacks as people think. I think we saw Kenny Pickett just not function that way. I think the mindset he was in, and maybe they had that with Kenny after his first few games. I think he got a little gun shy after he had 7 interceptions in 3 games.
Yeah.
He got a little, chance shy, and he turned himself into a guy who didn't throw interceptions. That's a learning curve. Fine. That's great.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I really don't think we're seeing that with the Steelers. I think we're seeing more Justin Fields has some legit issues.
Yeah. I thought we saw it with Mason Rudolph in 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just not in 2023.
Well,
so
2019, the man couldn't throw the ball with anticipation to save his life.
Yeah, so that's and honestly, you would have to call plays where they have the option to chuck it downfield. Were they doing that as much with Justin Fields? So it's a balance there. But honestly, to me, when you want to talk about beyond this year, I get it somewhat, but really, the Steelers are 8-3. They're 8-3, 6 to go. Let's see what this year holds.
I think, you know what I think part of that is? I think the last couple of years, ever since that 2021 season, I think there's kind of an idea that, the Steelers are winning games, but we know who they are.
You mean 2020?
Yeah, 2020. Sorry.
Yeah, gotcha.
The 2020 season where the Steelers went off for so many wins and then got so hurt that they couldn't function anymore. People caught up to the Matt Canada situation. All that happened. But since then, it's been this feeling that even when the Steelers are winning games, even when their record's really good, we know who they are. Mm-hmm. And they're not that team. And you don't look at them and say, ooh, if Ben can get with this guy and anything can happen in a playoff game with this quarterback. We had that with Ben. He goes in a playoff game, you're he could have one of those Ben Roethlisberger games that still show up every once in a while where he just goes off and we could win this game. I don't think we have that right now. Really, how much better do you think this offense can get? Realistically.
How much better do I think they could get?
Yeah.
I think the weakness right now is still the offensive line. And I think the offensive line could come together more and be better. But I think that's the key.
Do you see this team being a team that goes up against a really good defense and runs over them? Like the Browns 4 years ago? When Baker Mayfield, when they were at their high point where they would just give it to Nick Chubb and you're you can't stop that. Do you think we could get to that point by the playoffs? because I don't think we're getting.
I
think we
don't
can get
think
to where
so
the run
either.
game is more
No.
consistent, but we're still going to need, like, it still feels like we're kind of, that ceiling we had when we had Penny Pickett, where, like, if the run game does really good and Pickett makes a few good plays and they make a connect on a couple passes downfield to George Pickens, this team could upset, this team could be pretty decent on offense. I feel like we're almost still there. Like, we're still saying this, if the offensive line comes together and we're running the ball pretty good and Russell Wilson and George Pickens can pick up a few bags downfield and he can pull out some clutch third down conversions, it's not that much different than when we had Kenny Pickett starting.
See, I think it's a world of difference. I honestly do. I just feel like, I don't know if it's just the trust that the teammates have in Russell Wilson compared to Kenny Pickett. I mean,
yeah,
my
much better leader.
Yeah, my brother brought this up.
Passing is much better.
Why do you think it was all defenders that reached out to Russell Wilson?
Because they knew, right?
Because it was two different teams last year. It was an offense and a defense that weren't working it all together. At least now it feels like that they're working as a team. And as we can see with the NFL, there is only, you could look at so many different games and you change 2 or 3 plays in that game and you've got a different outcome easily. Just on 2 plays. My goodness, look at the end of the Washington-Dallas game. If they could successfully pull off an extra point, who knows what happens in overtime of that game? Instead, it's an 8-point loss. That would, that's just one of those crazy things you take away that kick return after he, if he doesn't drop the ball, not the second kick return, the first one, if he doesn't drop that ball, have to go back and get it. I don't know that he breaks it for that first touchdown that they had to push it up to a 10-point lead. There's just so many little things in there that could go. So that's why I'm like, yeah, the Thursday night thing, it just shows you trends. But if the Steelers just pulled off 1 or 2 things along the way, out of like a possible 20, they win that game. They win that game. It was just that game that none of those things seemed to go right, or not enough of them. There were so few that it just didn't quite get there. They got back into it based on the strip sack. You take that away, and who knows? Honestly, what's funny, you take away that strip sack, and the Steelers have to go the length of the field. Maybe there's not enough time left later. Maybe they don't go the length of the field. There's so many different things that can really turn the tide in a game. That would I be shocked if the Steelers went 6-0 to finish the season? Yes. Would I be shocked if they went 0-6? Even more so.
Yeah.
But any of those are possible just because of the way it works. So, all right, we are way over our time. Jeffrey, thank you so much for coming and gracing us with your presence. Once again, we've got to see if we can, if you're available, we've got to make sure that we're getting as much Jeffrey as we can. Make sure you're checking out all our podcasts this week. We're back to a normal schedule with the Steelers playing 1 p.m. on Sunday when God intended NFL football to be played.
Amen.
Make sure you're checking out the website. I'm not sure how things are going this week because we don't have all the same breakdown from a Sunday game that happens early in the week because it happened on Thursday. A lot of that content was over the weekend. If you missed it, go back and check it. I already did my PFF article. We already had winners and losers. We already had by the numbers, things like that. But make sure you're checking that out there. Jeffrey, thank you so much. Anything you want to say here to close us out tonight?
No, it's been great. Thanks for having me back on. It's great to see everybody. Great to see live chat. I really do miss this. I don't know how often I'll be able to do it, but I love coming back as a guest. I love it. It's great to be back.
We love having you.
Obviously, just as a guest.
Yeah, maybe someday your life situation will change and we can have you back.
But things aren't like bad.
Yeah.
They're just busy. They're just incredibly busy and hectic. So I can't do what I used to do.
Yeah, but we really appreciate you giving us any time you can give us. Thanks for joining us. I'm pretty sure the regular Q&A will be back to wait, I don't know. It's funny. I said we're going to have a regular schedule this week. I completely lied. Thanksgiving is this week. I don't even know when we're going to do the preview. I don't even know if we'll all be there for the preview because we'll have to make some changes because of Thanksgiving. But other than that, at least we're back to regular when football should be played on Sunday. So, Jeffrey, once again, thank you very much, and we'll see you all next time when Jeremy is back for another Q&A.
Riding on cloud nine.